Morning, Aline, and thank you very much. And indeed, it's a busy summer, and we're getting ready for operations as indicated for September. I would like to present you the work we've been doing with the team in the last year on the operational framework, as I would like to call it, and give you an update on the legal documentation. So let's jump to the next slide further, please. And indeed, so here you can see the main deliverables or building blocks of the operational framework, as we would like to call them, where the foundation is the operational documentation. Then we have communication tools and channels for disseminating information internally and externally. And then the last bit is the operational related tests, or ORTs, as we would like to call them. So a set of predefined tests that we execute with relevant stakeholders to make sure that everyone is ready for the go live and knows how to properly and timely react if there are any operational issues. Let's move then 2 slides forward. So another one, please. And let's start with the operation documentation, because this is, let's say, our bread and butter and the core document for the Pontes initial launch. It's going to be what we call the product operational terms of reference, or TOR. So this is a document that defines and describes the scope of the operational framework, then defines the roles of the relevant stakeholders, in this case, the service providing central banks, national central banks, and the ECB coordination function, describes how the business day looks like, so with the key phases of the business day and what you can expect during the normal day. And then we move into the procedures that we apply in day-to-day business, as we'd like to call them, normal and abnormal situations. So day-to-day business and incident crisis management and business continuity. It's important to highlight that the TOR, so the terms of reference, it's not a public document. It's available only to the central banks. But nevertheless, we made an extract of the document with the relevant chapters for the market participants. And those that are active in the target world will be familiar with the concept of an info guide. So we publish on the ECB webpage, and Aline already mentioned several times the ECB webpage for professional users, where you can find this document. And the document actually has an extract of the relevant chapters from the TOR that will help you with your day-to-day operations. Here, maybe it's also worth mentioning that the info guide, of course, it's public, but this does not preclude that if you reach out to your national central banks, your central banks prepare additional operational documentation or use the info guide to build their own stack of operational documentation. So please get in touch with them and see what they have in plan for you. If we then move to the next slide, and this is actually the timeline for the 2 documents. We started preparing the TOR already 1 year ago, last summer, and went through several iterations, review cycles with central banks. We managed to finalize it at the end of May. Then it went to our Market Infrastructure Board, or MIB, for approval in June. And this then helped us to stabilize the content for the info guide that was drafted and reviewed in June and set published at the beginning of July. So the exact date was the 8th of July, and you will find in the bottom there also the link directly to the document. We can then move to the next set, and these are the communication tools. And another slide, please. So this is a diagram that you will find in the info guide, and shows the 3 main channels that the market participants will use to get access to Pontes information, so the day-to-day information. On your left, you see the ECB, and we will provide, and I will show you further on, how it's going to look like a daily status update. So on the ECB webpage, you will be able to see the status of the system, when the system opens in the morning, when the system closes in the evening, and if there are any ongoing production incidents and when these incidents are going to be resolved. You will be able to subscribe to these notifications and you will receive real-time push email notifications in your inbox. Then your main counterparty for any kind of inquiries, questions, or if you have any technical problems are going to be your central banks and their national service desk. So if you have any questions, always liaise directly with your central banks. There is one exception that you can see on the right, and this is in case you would have connectivity problems, then you can directly contact the service providers, service providing central banks that will troubleshoot with you the technical issues and help you to solve these problems. Regarding the contact details for the National Service Desk and the service providing central banks, please liaise with your respective central banks, and they will provide you with these contact details, email addresses, and relevant telephone numbers that you can use in case you have. We can move then to the next slide, and this is the status update box, as we would like to call it. You can see demo that we prepared, and this is how it's going to look once we go live in September with Pontes. Those that are familiar with the target services probably saw this already in the past. And as I said, we will provide daily updates, what's going on with the system, live updates, morning message, opening, evening message when we close, and if there is anything going in between. You are able to subscribe to these notifications, and the colleagues put the example where you can click on a link under the box, and you will be able to select the individual services that you're interested to receive updates. In this case, you can subscribe only to Pontes if you wish, or to all the target services. And then, as said, you will provide predefined email address where we would like to receive these notifications, and then every time something happens, you receive a push notification directly in your inbox. We can move then to the next part, and these are the ORTs. So for the ORTs, this is a set of tests that we plan to execute now during the summer. It's something that is going to be keeping us for sure busy. And we plan to execute these tests with the national central banks and the service providing central banks. So it's important to highlight that we don't expect active involvement of market participants here. And also worth mentioning that this is part of our predefined go-no-go criteria. So we need to make sure that all the relevant stakeholders know how to properly and timely react. And we need to make sure that these tests are executed successfully. Let's then maybe move to the legal aspects and just give you an update where we stand with the legal documentation. This is normally quite a hot topic, and there are normally a lot of questions. So for the Pontes initial launch, we need to prepare a dedicated legal framework, and the underlying legal documentation was under drafting in the past months. We now reach the final stage of this process, but it's also worth mentioning that the legal documentation, why it's the legal documentation important, and there are always a lot of questions about it. So the legal documentation on one side will help establish the contractual relationship between the Eurosystem central banks, as you can see in the box above, and then through the what we call predefined templates for terms and conditions will help the national central banks to prepare their contractual relationships with the market participants. If we move to the next slide, and regarding the timeline where we stand, so the legal documentation, the package is now finalized. It was submitted to the Eurosystem decision-making bodies for approval. And we expect this whole package to be approved by the end of July, beginning of August, taking into consideration the summer. Important piece of information here are the templates, because normally we receive questions when the templates will be ready. The templates are ready and were submitted last evening to the central banks. So I assume that the central banks will approach in the upcoming days to start the work on the terms and conditions. So this is, I think, an important achievement, and will help to finalize this important works. So as said, if you have any questions on the legal aspects or the terms and conditions, you can directly liaise this with your respective central banks. And I think with this, Aline, I'm done with my presentation, and we'll check if there are any questions. There was maybe one question that I already saw that we exchanged earlier, was the question around the list of market DLT operators and business cases, because this is a question that we receive quite often, and we indeed plan to produce such a list and publish it on the ECB webpage. We're currently working on it together with the central bank, so that we collect the names of the DLT operators and their business cases. And when we compile this, we will publish it on the ECB webpage and share it with the market contact group and with the central banks. Thank you.
Thank you, Matej. No, very good point. And this was indeed asked a few times, so good to clarify that. And that's, of course, why you should all join our social media channel, our LinkedIn page, the newsletter, because then you will receive immediate updates when such a list is available. So that's just a quick advertisement for that. But again, scan your questions in. I'm just going to give Matej 30 seconds, because there are a number of questions coming in on the operational aspects. And then I just wanted to briefly show you again what Matej was saying, because you might now go to the webpage, your favorite place, payments, financial stability again. And on this page, you can, if you click here, you will see the target services. And if you click on the target services, you actually come to exactly the page that Matej was referring to, operational status of the target services. And this is the page where the Pontes box will be added. Of course, it's not added yet because the system isn't live, but it will be added here when the system goes live. So that's the place to stay updated on the status of the operational status. So that's just for everyone to know. So remember to save payments, financial stability as your favorite here on the ECB website, and you can get to anything you want in the future. So let's go back. So questions. So this is, we are rounding up the Pontes part of this focus session. But let me see. So there's a few questions coming. I think Matej has been good and answered most of them already, but maybe we bring him back, because there is a question, Matej, on performance expectation, limits, volumes, transactions in Pontes. Do you want to say a few words on that?
Yes, indeed. And this is a question that we discussed with the market participants in the past. You will find the, let's say, let's call them KPIs regarding system performance in the info guide, in the relevant section, and on the volume values limits. We indeed discussed this in the past. There are, for the Pontes initial launch, some initial limits on the volume and value on the volume in order to properly size the system, on the value in order to make sure that not too much liquidity is trapped in the system in case there would be any issues which could have a potential spillover systemic impact on target. And also these figures are defined in the info guide. It's important to highlight that these limits are soft limits, so they're not hardly enforced. If participants would go beyond them, this just then help us to better understand maybe the future evolution of the business and the need to upgrade the system in the near future. I think there was another question. Let me just quickly on the operational test, if we give a bit more background on this. Sure. So as I said, the operational test will be executed with the central banks and the service providers, central banks, so what we call the 4CB in upcoming months. The focus, we have three types of tests here that we are testing. One is pure communication tools to make sure that all the settlement crisis managers are reachable in case we would have any incidents, issues. Then we have the service providing central banks will test all the business continuity procedures and tests, so different types of failovers in case there are technical issues with the nodes. And then we have individual scenarios that could go from an insolvency of a participant to a delay closure to potentially scenarios where liquidity of tokens will remain on the wallets overnight due to technical issues with defunding. So these are, let's say, our day-to-day business cases that we need to test and make sure that we are ready for September.